Welcome back to the show. Tonight, Aisling Larkin is making an autumnal risotto. Aisling, how are you kicking things off? Welcome back as well.
Hi.
Nice to see you again.
Thanks very much. Thank you, guys. Yeah, we're doing a gorgeous autumnal risotto. It's officially October, so it's time to embrace all that season brings. So risotto is warm and comforting and lovely. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you a base recipe for a risotto, and we're going to top it with some beautiful wild mushrooms and crispy onions, a little bit of mascarpone, lemon, and a little bit of thyme, and it's a stunning dish. But once you get the basics of the risotto right, and it's not that hard, it's really easy. So in my pan, I have, just sweating off with the last kind of 15, 20 minutes, I have onions. So I have like 1 large onion or 2 or 3 little shallots, good bit of garlic. So I'm putting in 4 cloves of garlic in here because risotto can take it. It's quite, you know, carb dense. So you need to boost your flavor throughout it. That's why I love to put in the garlic. I have rosemary gone in there, fresh rosemary and fresh thyme. So we are changing into the seasons and we're kind of choosing those like more woody herbs like your thyme, like your rosemary instead of the summer ones. Let that cook down, right? As I'm always saying to you, sweat off your onions for way longer than you think because you want the sweetness to come out of them, and they can take a little bit of colour actually in this dish. And then into that we're going to put our rice. So this is my rice. Comes in a lovely little bag. It comes in a box as well. This is arborio rice, okay? So it's your short grain rice, and it's specifically for risotto. So you don't use something like a basmati or a jasmine or a long grain rice. Do try and find yourself your arborio rice. And it's in every, like literally every supermarket, own brand. It's, you know, it's really common now. So pop that in. And what that's going to do is any little bits of butter or oil that are in the pan, it's going to absorb it. Now, the difference that I'm doing tonight is I am putting in pearl barley. Okay, so pearl barley is like a really traditional ingredient to Ireland. It's kind of one of those like ancient grains, but from a nutrition perspective, white rice, like something like your arborio rice, has about 1.5 grams of fibre per 100 grams. Something like your pearl barley has 4.5 grams. So we all need to be getting in more fibre, and that's just such an easy way to do it. Plus the fact it cooks a little bit differently, so it normally takes a little bit longer. So what happens is as your arborio rice cooks and softens, the pearl barley kind of still has a little bit of bite in it. So you're getting this kind of difference of texture, which is really, really nice. You're getting your fibre, you're getting a little bit more texture. And it's, like I said, it's a kind of a lovely heritage, kind of Irish grain, which is really nice. So after you do that, stir it around for a couple of minutes. Next in goes your stock. You can use vegetable stock, you can use chicken stock. So if you were doing this just as your mushrooms and you wanted to serve it vegetarian, just go with your vegetable stock. If not, you can add in something like a chicken stock. Now, the age-old thing about risotto is you have to stand and stir, 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 stir all the time. And that is true. You do, to get perfection, right? But let's say you've got a busy household and you still want to eat a risotto that's like still really, really delicious. What I would do, put in your stock little by little, stir it all around. And as you're dipping in and out of folding a bit of laundry or doing a bit of homework or feeding the dog or popping in or out, just keep an eye. Give it a stir, stir, stir. When all the stock is absorbed, that's when you add your next bout of stock, and you keep going. So we've got about 1 litre of stock to about 325 grams of rice in here. That's going to cook away, okay? So we're going to take that off, let that cook really, really nicely. And sorry, I want to talk to you about my mushrooms.
Can I just ask, how low a heat or how high a heat do you have that on? Does it come up to a simmer or a boil ever, or no?
Yeah, that's a great question. So you want it to be a low to medium heat. So if your hob goes from 1 to 10, I would have it at about a 4 or a 5 the whole way through. And yeah, it's going to bubble, 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 bubble all around the edges. It'll catch a little bit around the edges. So keep stirring it really well. But like, you don't have to stand over it. In an ideal world you could, but you don't have to. And it will still be really nice, okay? So for my mushrooms, I have a lovely mix of chestnut mushrooms, which are these big guys. We've got our little baby button mushrooms, and then we have some shiitake. Now, all of these were got in the supermarket, okay? I didn't have to go specialist greengrocer or anything like that. Use everything, so be sustainable. You can use the stalk. So when you're slicing up your mushroom, just slice your stalk, dice that up, that can go into the pan, and then you want to slice your mushrooms. So your chestnut mushrooms kind of have that more meaty texture to them. Your button mushrooms are really gentle, and your shiitake then have a lovely texture as well. So they're really nice. And what people don't know about mushrooms is full of vitamin B, full of vitamin D. So when we're talking about immunity in food, that's really important. But about 4 to 5 mushrooms is 1 serving of your fruit and veg for a day. So I mean, like, it's a really easy way to get in fruit and veg as well. So I like to cook them separately. Saute them off, a little bit of oil, a little bit of butter. That's them done. We're going to finish them with a little bit of lemon zest, lemons and mushroom go really, really nicely. And they do take a little bit of salt as well.
We've a little less than 2 minutes, Aisling.
That's ideal. Perfect. So the mushrooms have cooked, right? The next part of this recipe is my crispy onions. These are gorgeous. These are like onion rings, but kind of like a classier version of an onion ring.
All right,
Bear with me. An easier version and a classier version. What I have done is I've taken these gorgeous little shallots, okay? Chopped them up into rings. So typical onion rings are done in batter. You don't have to do them in batter. What I'm going to do is you dip them in, let me show you here. You dip them in milk, so soak them in a little bit of milk, and then transfer them into flour, okay? And this coats and this gives you this batter that you want. Then you're going to plunge them into hot oil, let them cook away. They only take about a minute or two in the hot oil, and what you get is this beautiful, crispy little onion rings.
Wow.
Hit those up with a bit of sea salt. Oh, guys, they're gorgeous. They transform the whole dish because the risotto was
You've
quite
got about a
soft.
minute left, Aisling.
That's perfect, yeah. The risotto was quite soft. So what you want to do is to have lots and lots of different textures. So this is the risotto when it's cooked. And I like to have my risotto quite loose, okay? So I'm going to serve that up in the center. And I actually added just a little bit of spinach into mine, which is really nice. Whoops. And then into that, I'm going to top it with my mushrooms. So we're going to pile the mushrooms high on top. A little bit of mascarpone cheese if you wanted to finish it, which is really nice and it just melts. Parmesan cheese, obviously. Crispy onions on top and a big pile of those gorgeous crispy onions. Finish it with a little bit of rosemary or thyme, a little sprig of that on top, and then a tiny little garnish of something like a balsamic. And there you have it. So it's not a difficult meal, but it's just incredibly indulgent. And even serve it as a side dish with a steak
Aisling,
if you didn't want to have it as the main
You're
dish.
not in the studio.
we wish you were here.
Phenomenal.
I know,
Thank
guys.
you
I'm
so much
sorry.
for that risotto. Delish.